So in today's episode, we meet Pierre and Gio Botha, who through their series Welvaartskeppers, or in English, Wealth Creators, and their podcast, The F Word, are living their passion to educate as many South Africans as possible. So very excited for this morning's show. So let's get it started.
This is Propulsion, the podcast for forward-thinking and driven and ambitious financial planning professionals. It is the catalyst to the exponential growth of your financial planning practice, your business, or your franchise. This is where professionals come in order to learn about the latest technology, to learn about best practice when it comes to running and managing their business, as well as marketing, sales, relationship building, the best and most valuable interviews with local and international guests, and a whole host of other things. Without any further ado, here is your host, Francois du Toit.
There you go. Pierre and Gio, welcome to Propulsion Live this morning.
Good morning, Francois, and morning for everyone that's watching.
Morning.
Awesome. Yeah, good to have you. I can still fondly remember the first time, I saw this podcast go out, like The F Word, and I don't know, the name just immediately struck me. I immediately went to listen to the first episode. I subscribed to the podcast over on Apple. And, I thought, I want to see if these guys are going to continue doing this. And I must say that you did. So before we get into the conversation with all of those weird and wonderful things, let's maybe just first start off with a little bit of an introduction. Pierre, if we can start with you. Just maybe a brief introduction about yourself. And then, Gio, you can go after that. And then, we can get on with it.
Yeah, so I'm Pierre Botha. I introduced myself PJ Botha to the English-speaking folk. And I've been in the industry for 10 years. Did study accounting, so I'm external auditor, did my chartered accounting, external auditing, and Joe, you did internal auditing. But unfortunately, we are not there anymore. So we are now in the financial planning industry, and we work at a firm that my father started. So that's got sucked into that. So that's where we are today.
Yeah, like PJ mentioned, I studied BCom internal auditing at the time, and I wasn't planning to go into financial planning per se. Like PJ said, my dad started the company. I didn't know what to do after internal auditing. I knew it was not internal auditing, but I did finish my degree. I did finish my honors, and then I went and worked in corporate in Momentum Consult for a couple of years. And 7 years ago, I joined Bovest and my brother and father in the family company. So that's a little bit of background to where we started.
And I'm sort of keen to understand, both of you started something completely different and then end up in financial planning. When you went to study, were you sort of convinced that you should be studying what you studied? Like, I'm keen to sort of know that. Or is it just like, crap, I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe this is a good idea. I've always been good with numbers. I didn't do too bad at accounting at school, or did very well at accounting at school probably. And maybe this is the sort of cause. Or what was that like for you? Here, I'm going to because I know, I like how you say, I knew internal auditing wasn't for me. I didn't know what was, because that resonates so much with me. But, and it's sometimes important to know what's not for you. You don't have to know what is for you. But if you know what's not for you, that's a very good start. But just talk a little bit about that and how that was for you. Like, why did you go and study that in the first instance? And then just at what point did you realize, this is not for me?
Yeah, Francois, definitely for me, it was crap. I didn't know what I was going to do after school. And I remember speaking to my mother, and we spoke about what should I go and study. And I just read this one article, there's a need for internal auditors. And then I went and studied internal auditing. But I fairly quickly realized, internal auditing is not for me. It doesn't suit my personality. It's all about, assessing the risks. And, it's not about me, but for me, it was important to finish, so I wanted to finish my degree and finish my honors. And then you can do a lot with a degree. You have it on your CV. That's why I still believe in go and study something. Even if you feel it's not for you, you can still use that in some way. And it shows you've got discipline. It shows you've got capacity to learn. And any employer will look at that as a positive. But these days, you shouldn't be fixed, or you shouldn't think like, what I'm going to study, I have to do it for the rest of my life. I don't think that's changed fairly. That's changed a lot over the couple of years. So I don't know what I wanted to do, but fairly quickly realized it's not internal auditing.
Awesome. And PJ, shall I call you PJ today because we're in English?
No, we can do it. It's fine.
Okay, let's do that. Okay,
most of the time it becomes JP, so it's fine.
Okay, that's fine.
So yeah, no, I think most people that go study accounting there's a lot of opportunities when you study accounting, or mostly will probably make a lot of money. That's why most people go into accounting. And I still believe it's a very good field to go and study, because all of my friends that also studied and became chartered accountants, they are in very different fields. Some are in sports, some in mining. So I think it's still a very good degree. No one stays, I know, but no one that stays in auditing. So I think it's a very good course to manage. And I think university degree is very important. It learns you to think. And unfortunately, sometimes you learn to think like accountants. So you see risks first the whole time. So I think to become a business owner, accounting sometimes might be holding you back, because you only see the risk. You don't see all the opportunities. And most people we talk to that's very successful don't see risk. They just go for it full head on.
Yeah, and that's a very interesting point to me. I never thought about it like that. So obviously the world do need accountants, because people that go into business like us, I just made a very big move without overthinking it too much. And I am like a little bit nervous now after the decision's been made, but it's like you see the opportunity and you go, and you do need someone to say, oh, but have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? But I guess it has got a lot to do with sort of one's personality, and whether, if that's the role you want to play, or if you are you would rather be seeking risk than avoiding risk, probably. What do you think has the biggest impact long term on your trajectory, or where you go in life? I'm not talking about how successful you are, or because there's too many variables there, but just the direction in which your career goes. So what you go and do, how much does doing a specific qualification have on that versus the work you go and do early on in your life? Which of those two do you think have the biggest impact on sort of the rest of your working career? I'm going to go with Gio. Sorry, Gio. I called you out there.
So we recently did a TV show, and we'll probably get to that. But one of my guests was Eric Kruger, and he's a high-performance coach. That's the best way to maybe describe it. And we spoke about, is it important to go and study? Is it important to learn and to educate yourself? And he said, if you're talking about formal education, that's not as important anymore. But education as a broad sense is very important. So I think that's what you have to differentiate. If you want to be successful in a specific field, you have to put in the work, and you have to educate yourself in that specific line. Like we just talked about, we didn't go and study financial planning or investment management. That wasn't part of our formal education. Later on, however, we liked the field. We started learning. We started listening to shows like this. You educate in that specific field. So I think if you have that capacity or that hunger to learn, I think that's the most important in whichever field you choose to go into. That's very important for your success going forward. Not the formal part, but just the education as a broad sense.
Yeah, and I love Eric. I saw him speak on a stage for the first time when they launched SME Africa way back. I think it was 2017 probably. I got the book that Actor Non-Verbal, and he talks about the principle of accretion in that book. And it's one of the things that he starts off with. And it's that thing about building, as you said, like systematically every day, like build a little bit on top of the previous skill and the previous habit. And over time, it becomes sort of this snowball with momentum that just, you almost become unstoppable. And so I'm a big fan of Eric. I think, I don't know if it was it you that posted on LinkedIn at the time, like, I'm sort of at a bit of a cryptic leidraad, and then I went like, oh, that's Eric. It must be Eric. So that you can also, if somebody talks about Eric, you can almost immediately, identify that, because he's built himself such a great brand. And, I think his latest book is called Dangerous, if I remember correctly. And like I said, he's a phenomenal guy. But anyway, PJ, so the Bovest story, like where did it all start, right? Because you said earlier your dad started this, how did he get into this? Where did Bovest start? And what was the origin story?
So you talked about early education and if it's important. My dad studied political science. So and how does that come to economics? But he always had a passion for finances, and he did part-time studied to JSE stockbroking course and stuff like that. So he started the company in 2008, in the best time to start a financial planning practice. So he started 2008, and just from there, and he never dreamt of it as a family business. He just wanted to do work. He had some clients and just wanted to do good work. And now it's grown there, and he never expected us to join a firm. And we, like, when we went to study, never thought, oh, I'm just going to join the firm. So it definitely snowballed from there, from a one-man show now more to company-based. We are 5 advisors, so that's more where we are today.
Yeah, I love stories like that, and just sort of, it always started like, if I'm listening to that, like one man following his passion, sort of, and let's go do this. And I think political sciences are very, very, very valuable in what we do, to be honest. So that's a good thing. Before we get to sort of the different shows and things that you do, I want to talk a little bit about, just because I think the reason for that, if I'm like gathering from a little bit of research I did, is that what is very important to you is educating as many South Africans as possible on finances, right? So, I mean, why is that so important to you, PJ? If you think about that, I mean, there's many places, right? There's people who do it for free. There's people who want to do it for money. There's people who's writing books, all this kind of stuff. And you could have gone like, oh, there's so many people doing it. Why should we do it? But this is obviously something that's so important to both of you and to the company, I would assume. So, I mean, why is it so important?
Yeah, I think in my life, there was 2 people that influenced me when I just started the industry. And it was, one person was nearing retirement, and she told me her story, and now she's kind of struggling. She doesn't have enough money for retirement. She stresses about her finances. And I traced it back, and I can just see if she just made 1 or 2 different decisions, she would have been in a completely different financial place. I mean, she cashed out her pension, to just name an example. So then I saw the importance of financial planning. Just 1 or 2 pieces of advice can literally change your life going forward, your financial life. And the other person was a young rugby player earning a lot of money at that time. And I fast forward 10 years later, he didn't work well with that money. His career ended, and then he had to start over. And I just saw those 2 people as an example of how important financial planning is, and how the influence we as financial advisors can make. You can literally change someone's life and someone's destiny. So I think that's what excites me. You can really make a difference in our industry, and I think that's why we do what we do. Or that's for me why I do what I do.
And I think we try to bring a bit more of an informal approach, and I think that's why the F word, finance, because the F word, no one wants to talk about it. That's why we try to take a more relaxed view on it, so a bit more informal for specific viewers. So there's a lot of great content. And everyone, we need more education, but we try then to make it a bit more informal, maybe for a younger audience, a bit more.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think we try and take sort of a similar approach. Although there's a structure to things, it's like I'm very jokey and very like laid back, and as you say, this is a conversation kind of thing. So it's I think that's the way to really connect with people, and if you don't connect with people, then you'll never be able to sort of make this vision of yours a reality. And my question is, how do you go, like, sort of, if you think about where you started when you did that first episode, right? And now you're like, how many episodes later? And we'll get to the TV show just now, but how do you make sure, and how do you gauge whether you are having the impact that you are envisioning for this, like that you think you're going to have and that you would really want to have? How do you know that's starting to sort of happen here?
Yeah, I think that's the most difficult point, and I think you would know 183 episodes. Well done to you as well. But to consistently show up, even if you're not sure someone listens, if you're not sure you're making an impact, that's where it helps to do it with PJ. I must say, we keep each other accountable to consistently show up. And every now and then you just get a comment, or someone says, I've listened to your episode and now I've done this. That makes a big difference. The comments you get. And then all of a sudden you realize, okay, now we are back on track. So I think it's important to have that longer term vision and why are you doing this, and then to just show up consistently, which is definitely not always easy, but to have an accountability partner definitely helps me.
I must agree. Like I found exactly the same thing. Is somebody asked me the other day, like, how do you do it like every Friday? And it's just simply like in 2020, I made a promise that I'll show up. So I'm accountable to the people on the other end of this camera to sort of do that, you know. And it's funny how, because I swear this is probably the first thing I've been this consistent at ever in my life. Like it's amazing when you have that accountability and you know, like you made a promise, it's out there in the world. It wasn't just to yourself. You know, and suddenly you stick to it. And also, I think the other thing that has come through, like now over all these episodes, is consistency is always this key thing that drives whatever it is you want to do. Like if you have to be consistent and you have to be sort of patient, you know. So those two things seems to go hand in hand. PJ, I want to ask you, like, where is the biggest gap when it comes to financial education? Because there's so many aspects when it comes to educating someone or teaching someone or guiding someone, showing someone around personal finance. Like, where are the biggest gaps do you find?
Yeah, I think like anything, I think it's so difficult to start. And I'm talking for people, so people that don't know anything about finances. So we just need to bridge that gap where they find a little bit of information. And it's so difficult. We still don't have the answer because we know the people that are watching the podcast and watching shows like this are the people that's interested in finance and probably on their way to a good retirement or good finance. We see it the same when we talk to students as well. We probably get 10% of the students that wants to educate and they go and listen to the podcast and they go do that. And we do a lot of talks and stuff, but it's the people that's already educated. It's like people who read MoneyWeb. It's people that already know enough about finances reading MoneyWeb. So to make it interesting for that's the common folk that have no interest in finances. But that's a difficult thing. I don't have the answer, but I think that is the biggest gap still, just to get someone started. And maybe if it's a show like ours, just to, ask questions, because I think that's why books like The Manage Your Money, like a grown-up, that's good books to read because that just gets you interested in that way. And I think that's the most important part.
And it's interesting
just to start the conversation, I think with our podcast, that was the most important thing, is to the F word. Maybe someone will listen and just now at Brian, instead of just talking about rugby or whatever you talk about, is maybe just one or two, just start the conversation. You know, that's why we didn't want to go too technical. We want to make it nice and informative, but in a friendly manner so anybody can understand, just to start that conversation, like PJ mentioned.
Yeah, and do you also find that it feels like, you know, people get a sense that they get to know you and that they have a relationship with you, even though you've never met? Do you find that happens for people that listen quite a bit, you know, that like they just when you do talk to them, it's like, oh, we know each other. It's do you find that?
Yeah, interestingly, last night we had our function here in Pretoria, and there was a couple of people coming up to me, and you can see that they listen, and they said they listen and they watch the show, they listen to the podcast. So it felt like, you know, we were friends because they already know kind of what we are about. And there's immediately a point where we can have a discussion because they're saying that one episode you said this. And yeah, so it's 100%. It starts building that relationship. And I think just another point I want to just mention another point we touch on. There's all social media and the effort we do. And it's difficult to show up consistently, like you mentioned. But then I remind PJ that probably my biggest client or second biggest client came from social media. So I think for advisors, a lot of the time we think it's an add-on, or I'll do it when I have time, or, you know, I must first, you know, I don't prioritize it really. But then when you get one client, two clients, you actually see that you are getting paid to do this. If you think of it that way, you are actually getting paid to do this. So it's a very important part, and I think it will be even more important going forward. To consistently show up, because that actually is where you can get a lot of clients from. So it's not just an add-on, it's not just a nice to have, it's not just an educational experience, it's part of your business. And I think it's part of your business even more so going forward.
I think that's a nice, yes, and I fully agree with that. If you're not creating content for social, and if you're not putting things out into social, you know, that it's never too late to start, number one. But you probably should have started a few years ago already, because it is such an important vehicle, and it doesn't replace any of the other mediums that we might be used to, or like this is complementary to that. And the thing is that, I mean, we all started like shows and podcasts and things which would never have been possible. I mean, like you now took it to the next level, and I want to get into this because I think what you just said sort of leads nicely into us talking about, like, let's just talk about the opportunity of being in media, because that still really is the next level, right? So, I mean, social, you can have a big following, you can do all of this, and some people choose just to do that because they're comfortable. Other people are like, okay, what's the next level to that? And probably getting into mainstream media is definitely something that is valuable. I spoke to Mduduzi Latuli way back on my podcast when I still just did the podcast. And he's also big on, you know, he's always on TV and on radio and all these kind of things. But I mean, you started this podcast, and the next moment I see this thing called Welvaartskeppers, which is wealth creators for our, you know, to just sort of translate that. It's a show on KykNet where you were visiting successful people, you know, that have businesses and that have built wealth, and sort of to talk to them about their story and how they've done it and all of that. And there's some interesting banter between the two of you as well, where you talk about, sit back, relax, and talk about things, etc., like the qualification thing. So, you know, I think that I want to find out, like, how did that happen and why did that happen? So I don't know who of you wants to take that one. You're welcome.
Yeah, I remember 3 years ago, we sat in a boardroom, and myself and PJ and my father having a discussion about one client strategy and how he built his business. And, you know, we learned so much from that specific client. And then the idea just came up, we need to share this with our other clients or with other people, the general public out there, because you can learn so much from a successful client and implement that to build your own business. And then we took it further. Then my father wrote the book, Welvaartskeppers. So there was a book, Welvaartskeppers, which we were also co-authors in. But then I see, like you mentioned, mainstream media is still, you know, a big platform. It's not dead. You know, a lot of people say mainstream media is dead. Social media is the next thing. And it might be, but still mainstream media is currently still very big. So then I said, we shouldn't keep it in book format. Let's take it a step further. And then I approached KykNet and pitched the idea. Didn't hear anything for 6 months. I basically forgot about it. And then all of a sudden they came back and they said they liked the idea. Let's go for it.
Yeah, just on that, a lot of people ask, now, how did you do this? So I think, and everyone asks, how do you get a show on KykNet? And we asked the KykNet guys as well, and they said, just pitch the idea on the website.
Yeah, I think a lot of the time you have an idea, but you don't take that leap. And people ask me how I did it. I just basically went on KykNet website. There's a place where you can submit a proposal, and I submit the proposal through there. And like I mentioned, I just took a chance, and I actually forgot about it. And then, yeah, they came back.
Wow, I love that. And so what are some of the outstanding lessons? And I want to ask, like, maybe also, but I'll keep this one for after this. I mean, you spoke to these, like, I think there were 13 episodes, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, you spoke to quite an amazing group of people. Like, what were some of the outstanding lessons? I mean, you've been doing this now for quite a while. Your dad's been doing this for years. Like, you know, almost get to a point where you might think or feel like you've seen it all, you've heard it all, but I mean, I'm convinced that there must be things that you went like, whoa, okay, that's either a very different way of looking at something, or whoa, never thought of it this way. Like, EJ, like, what stood out?
Yeah, one thing for me is, look, all of them is very positive people. And then always say, are they positive because they are successful, or are they successful because they're positive? Because if you are successful, everything is sunshine and roses. But I think all these people, and I think everyone watching this show as well, is positive mindset people. They believe everything is possible, and they can build their business, they can do things. And even if bad stuff happen, like COVID, you said you started your podcast in that time, they still see opportunity in the negative. So all of them take something bad and they just go on and continue and positive, all of them around.
Yeah, and I think a nice story, one of our guests, or Michael Jordan, everybody will probably know about him, previous CEO from FN First Rand. And I know PJ was always been a big fan, and we wanted him on the show, and we didn't know how we're going to approach him. And I just said, he replied to a tweet once from PJ, and I said, you know, just send him a Twitter message. just take that leap. And I think I'm glad to see PJ took that step from being an auditor and being risk averse to just taking a step. And then he said, yes, he's definitely, he wants to be part. And that's also what we see about these people. They're willing to share. They want to share. Successful people want to share how they made money. It's not like they want to keep it. It's a secret. They want to keep it for themselves. They are willing to give you ideas and to share tips. And just another example, my very first interview was with Albie Geldenhuys from USN. He built a massively successful business now in over 50 countries. But I asked him, was this always the plan? And he said, no. So I learned then, he made me realize that you don't always need a plan. We put too much emphasis on young people, like, what's your 5-year plan? What's your 10-year plan? What are you going to do with your life? And he just said, set small, short-term targets for yourself. Go for that, work hard, achieve that, see are you successful, reassess, and then you go again, short-term targets. So it doesn't have to always be this grand 5-year plan that where you're going to. Set for yourself short-term targets, work hard, and then reassess.
I think. And just on that, the instant gratification age that we live in, we as millennials probably believe that, and we always ask, "What's the next thing that we do?" And our dad always say, "Just keep on doing good work, client per client, and the rest will come."
Yeah, it's powerful. So the question is, like, out of all these successful people, I mean, you had Michael Jordan, Albie Geldenhuys, Eric Krier. I mean, he coaches high performance teams as well. Like, I mean, this is sort of the stuff, right? My question is, do they have all the answers? Or did you find that there's things that they're unsure? They don't know how they're going to do it. They don't have answers to what the next thing is. Was there any of that in the discussions?
Yeah, especially in wealth management. Like you mentioned, myself and PJ took different approaches. Like, example, should you invest in property? And I say, no, I don't believe so. PJ took the way of, yes, you should. And there is no right or wrong answer. I think that's the beauty when it comes to money and making money. There's no right or wrong way. You can take one approach or another approach. Both of you can, create wealth. So, no, they don't have all the answers. And there isn't just one answer. I think that's the beauty of it. There's different ways of looking at it. And find what works for you. Find what works for your personality. But do something. I think that's what we saw with all these people. They're action takers. It's not just talking about it, not just sitting and having a plan. They take action. So even if it's the wrong action, you will learn from that. But just take action. Don't wait for the right answer. Like you mentioned, they don't have the right answers. They made a lot of mistakes, all these people, but they took action. I think that's also a very important point.
Yeah, and I think that's probably, my wife and I actually had a conversation last night around, it's all about the action you take. It's not about the plan. It's not about the goal. It's not about what's in front of you or behind you or things you don't know what's going to happen. All you have control of is actually one, that you take action, as well as the actions that you do take. And if it is the wrong action, that's okay. It's lesson learned, right? So then just take the next action and do the next thing. So important. I'm keen to just quickly, I want to get into succession planning, but what opportunities came from this initiative? Is there any opportunities that you can say, well, like something dramatic changed or something significant changed, for your business or for your personal brands or whatever it may be? And then also maybe in the same vein, just, are there certain things to look out for if someone does decide to sort of venture into mainstream media? So PJ, would you like to take that one, or Hugh?
He's more.
Yeah. I think people. They ask, like, did your life all of a sudden change and it's an influx of clients? And I think once again, no, it doesn't happen like you do one event and your whole business change. And I think once again, I said to PJ, this is a long-term goal. Don't think we're going to do a show on TV and people are going to stand, knock on your door constantly. So we definitely saw for brand awareness first, definitely there's a very positive thing because people like the positivity and the, it's truly South African. They like that. But
existing clients love it.
Yeah, so existing clients, first of all, you have your existing clients. They love it. So you build that connections. And then also the referrals obviously then increase because your existing clients now want to refer other people to you. And there's obviously then been clients completely that we didn't know that came through the website. But it's still, I said, we must still from here on build on this. It's not like we did the show, now we can sit back. You still now have to use your personal brand, have to use what we gained in this whole experience and reach out to the clients.
Yeah, I think we can go back to the education part. Now, when you study and you are chartered accountant, you think, okay, now the money's just going to flow in. And it's not how it works. Everyone thinks I'm going to do this and then it's just going to happen. But so it's definitely an ongoing process. It's just a stepping stone to the next thing.
Yeah, and I think it builds that familiarity that if someone is referred to you, it's a much easier sort of thing to cross. Because usually, even if somebody says, you should speak to PJ or to Gio or to whoever, people would go like, okay, no, that's cool, but let me go do a bit of my own homework. I'm not just going to go on their word. But now, like, there's all this social proof. There's things out there. And I think the biggest thing about doing things like this, for instance, is that people get to experience you and decide for themselves without even having met you, whether they resonate with what you say, how you say it, sort of your demeanor, your personality, all of those things. And it makes that part definitely easier. Anything to look out for specifically, like something to be careful of when you do venture onto something like this, like anything that maybe stands out?
I didn't get negative.
No, you didn't.
You're most negative in yourself, I think.
Yeah, I think you negative yourself. One comment we did get is, and I think 100% know who's your target audience, know who you are want to target, because not everybody's going to like me or resonate with me. And PJ definitely, some people are going to resonate more with him, some people will resonate more with myself. I know that one lady said, please, if you do another season, please just shave, so that's one example of so what we got. But no, I think just know what you're wanting to achieve, and don't just do it to be on TV, or you really know why you are doing it. I think that's the one thing I would say people need to look out for. It's just be true to yourself and know why you are doing what you're doing.
Yeah, awesome. I quickly want to get a little bit into succession planning. I mean, obviously, like you said, working in this business with your dad. So there must be sort of different dynamics at play. I mean, you've got I won't say necessarily, maybe there's a similar mindset in the business, but different views and sort of different things where you might want things to go in the future or not. Like, what is that dynamic like working with your father in this business? And there's more planners, and it's a bigger business than just the three of you. But I mean, that sort of I would guess the core would be. And I mean, what is that like for you on a day-to-day basis to work so closely as you said, it was never intended to be a family business. Now it is. Like, so what is that like?
I think from an outsider perspective, they always ask the question, how do you work with your father and brother? And it's very difficult. But I think the great thing about financial planning industry is you're still a business in a business. I think everyone here, you still have your own clients, you have your own book, you have your own franchise in the business. You're just part of a bigger group. So I think that's a great thing about our industry is you still build your own brand. And like Jose, he maybe focus on medical doctors. My father focus on retirement planning. I'm more on business owners. So you can have your own thing, and he wants to do it more on social media, and he goes a wine and well function, and he can do that. So that's great. And I can do other things as well. So a bit more analytical, and I'm going to have my own type of clients in that. So I think that's a great thing. Everyone's got their own strengths. And in the business itself, we complement. I'm more the financial, because I did study accounting, analytical. So the finances is more on my side. Joe, it's just natural in the marketing side, and that's why Belfast Skippers and all the things come from his side. So we give each other space in, okay, you are better in this, and you're better in that. So let's work together to create a goal.
Yeah, like I said, give each other space and respect each other. And I think that's also from my father's side. He let us run with it. He didn't say like, this is always how it used to be done, we're going to stick to that, which I guess happens a lot when you get the older generation to, glue. They want to stay in control. And luckily my father didn't want to do that.
Especially on farms. Probably.
Yeah.
Cool. So the question is like, how are you approaching those? Is that a conversation that's taking place regularly? Is it like every so often? Do you have a very clear succession plan for the business? What is that like?
Yeah, so we definitely started, like this year we started, my father is turning 67. but he will sit a weekend at home and then says, no, he can't stay that long at home. So he doesn't want to fully retire. And everyone asks, do you want your father to go? Definitely not, because he still gets clients. And at his age, the bigger clients, he'd still get the bigger clients, and we can help with servicing and the technical side and the para-planning. So want him as long as we can in the business, because he's, again, got a certain client that wants to work with him. But we start with succession planning. So how we do this is we have servicing advisors. So he's a primary advisor then. And on his book, we have servicing advisors like Joe's in Stellenbosch. So the Cape Town clients, naturally Joe up with, and then I'm in Pretoria. So with that clients, and we have also Ruvan with assisting with clients. So we start with that. So if anything happens now, they are familiar with, okay, he's going to take over the book. So that's definitely the succession planning. And we do a fee split, I think, on that, specifically on that. And the idea is you can increase it later on, and then you can maybe you buy the book in the end if he wants to retire. So I think he's going to get the bigger clients in the end.
Awesome. So to end off, like 1 minute each, like what do you think the future holds for the profession if we zoom out a little bit and we look at the profession as a whole? I mean, here, where do you feel things are going, or where do they have to go?
Yeah, no, it's exciting to see a lot of, like you are doing now, and a lot of there's exciting financial advisors, and there's good financial advisors out there. And I think that's great that we have a lot of successful, good financial planners out there. It just lifts our industry, so we don't see that as competition. We invite, good financial planners, and I think just the industry is making a step up, and I'm excited for what's lying ahead. To continue on this journey, and I think there's so much opportunities available. And PJ said, it's such a great business to work in, because you have a business within a business, and you can be yourself and attract the clients that you want to. So for me, it's exciting prospects for the industry.
Yeah, so I definitely think the profession is getting more professional, because that's the one thing when you start from accounting and now you go into this industry, and then people's got the perception, why do you do this? Why are you going to sell policies and do that? So it's still the perception, but I think it's definitely changing. But you see, definitely there's people that you can still get that only sell policies, and then you get people that do planning. And it's up to us and everyone here to make that shift to the more professional era.
Awesome. No, I fully agree. And I think that's what we absolutely are about. So, happy. And I think that's why, like I'm always amazed at the caliber of, and I say the caliber with respect, but like caliber of people that come onto the show, the caliber of people in our community around the show and Propulsion Pro and all of those kind of things. It's people who are inherently positive, as you said earlier. It's people who want to see things move forward. We want to raise the bar. We want to move it deeper and deeper into a profession, because I believe we are a profession at the core. The fact that people focus on different areas within that, because profession also has a lot to do with behavior and how you act. It's not necessarily always what you do, and it's not always your qualification. It's got a lot to do with the way you actually behave and how much ethics plays a role. I think that's a big part of that. But guys, I want to say a massive thank you. I really enjoyed the conversation. It was amazing. I wish you well. And I did share your websites on screen just now, and then also in the description on the YouTube channel, you can find links to various different things. So please go check it out. And wishing you both well. And hopefully there's going to be a season 2 of Welvaartskeppers. And if people haven't watched it, go and check it out on Kyknet. Even if you're English, go check it out. There's much to learn in Afrikaans. If they do talk about numbers, it'll be in English, so don't worry. But stuff, PJ and Gio, just thank you so much. Hope you have a fantastic weekend.
Thank you, Franco, and all the best for you as well. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot, guys. All right, and just like that, we come to the end of the show. Next week, my guest is Alan Yates from Peregrine Capital. We're going to talk a little bit about hedge funds, something we've never spoken about on the show. We've had the likes of Roelof on here from Mighton Optimal, and things we spoke about DFMs and the markets and things like that. But this is the first time we're going to talk a little bit about hedge funds. So do join us next week. We'll be back same time, same place. So have a great weekend. Stay safe. Be blessed and prosper. And remember to continue to raise the bar. Love you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. Remember to check out the live show, Propulsion Live, on YouTube every Friday at 7 a.m. South African time. You can find it at www.propulsion.co.za/live. That's propulsion.co.za/live. And please remember to subscribe, share with your colleagues, your friends, and anyone who may find value like you did in this podcast. Once again, thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next episode.